Ren and Stimpy was probably my, outside of my friend John and my brother Phil, two funniest people I've ever known in different ways. But outside of that, Ren and Stimpy was my earliest influence that I can recall. Don Knotts was there. But Ren and Stimpy had this real way of making me. It's to this day my favorite element in comedy is always the person who drives the other guy insane with sort of like just a very subtle ineptitude. You know, the Abbott and Costello, I'd be better off if I wasn't with this idiot. That kind of thing. And Ren and Stimpy embodies that, but they'd have beautiful music, and the graphics and the drawings were so wild, and the characters, and I used to find that hilarious. And I just see it in my mind today when I think of how I think of jokes or sketches, or when someone tells me something funny, how I picture it. It's often in this extreme Ren and Stimpy way, I guess. That's the only way I can put it. You know, I'm very, I make lists. I'm compulsive like that. I like to make lists. My 50 favorite boxers, fights, my 50 favorite comics, things I love. So I started making this list in like last summer. It took me 6 months to make this list. Just going to make a list of 50 favorite comics. It ended up being 100. Not favorite, but kind of in the order they influenced me, or if people I've met, if they were kind to me, or I've known them and they showed me some, gave me some the time of day, they just skyrocket in my book. Some people who are naturally hysterical, like Judah Freelander, he does something in comedy. What he does is amazing to me, and I can't, it's one of those things you have to be there to see. And I think that was like Steve Martin's whole philosophy behind comedy. He didn't want you to be able to tell other people why it was funny. You had to see it. But what I've seen Judah do probably 3 or 4 times to me has always been amazing, and I've always really respected that kind of comedy. I know I'm not explaining it. It has nothing to do with 30 Rock, or it has nothing to do with anything you could think of. If you've seen him do it, you know. But and then he's a nice guy off stage, and he's been kind to me very many times. And to me, that's just all the people I like in comedy are. I think comedians are inherently nice people. Even these guys you see screaming and stuff. Although when I worked at Nantucket Comedy Festival in 2011 with Lewis Black, I'd actually just pounded through his book, knowing he was headlining the festival. It's called Me of Little Faith, and with my scrupulosity, I'm obsessed with that stuff. It's all about his quest for faith. I pounded through that book, and then I get to Nantucket, and the next night I see him. He's not performing that night, but it's like the women are performing that night, and it's in a church. But I remember seeing him in the back of the church and saying, it's kind of weird. I'm reading your book all about religion and stuff, and now the first place I ever see you is in the back of a church, and with my experience in church, and he just kind of like, he didn't like say anything. And then like the next day I said something else to him, like kind of meaningful, and he didn't say anything then either. He was okay though. He's a nice guy. Don Gavin, though, I stayed in the house of Don Gavin. This was an amazing experience. It was 2011. I've always known a lot about comics, but you delve into the comics as they come to you, and like I didn't know as much about Greg Fitzsimmons then. I didn't know as much about. I didn't know anything about Don Gavin. He's a very nice man. I don't know. He's the godfather of Boston comedy. He's sitting down, me and him at a picnic table for an hour, and one morning he's just talking to me, and. Well, I knew he was someone special. When he checked out of the thing, I went in his room after he checked out, and like he left a penny on his dresser, so I have Don Gavin's penny. Maybe, actually, he left a bunch of them, so I have a bunch of Don Gavin's pennies. I have only kept one, though, that I know is Don Gavin's penny. The other pennies could have gotten mixed up in, maybe I rolled them or something, but I bet they're still around my house. I bet I have them labeled. I just moved so much. I bet they're in my parents' house somewhere in a little pouch labeled Don Gavin's pennies. Steve, we threw them out. We didn't think they were worth anything. Are you kidding me? Those are Don Gavin's pennies. What are they worth? Oh, no, Steve, we didn't throw them out. Here they are. We found these pennies you had set aside. Here you go. Oh, phew. This penny says 2018. I worked the festival in 2011. Shut up, idiot. Go back to your soup kitchen. I don't know who that's supposed to be. If that's my father talking to me, or that's me talking to myself, or that's the pennies talking to me. Yeah. What do you think of this so far? Anyone listen to any of this? What do you think? I'm trying too hard? You think I'm trying? I'm not trying at all. If I was trying, I'd just at least write down some topics. Like I had a good rant on Lance Armstrong bracelets. Like where the hell are they? Like everyone when I was a kid, everyone's parents had Lance Armstrong bracelets on. Everyone. It was almost a sign that, like, hey, I'm not evil. Hey, I got this yellow bracelet. They're everywhere. And I've never seen one since or in the trash. Where are all these bracelets? Johnny cakes, too. That's got to be the most old-fashioned, out-of-touch cake ever. Even a fruit cake is referenced more often than a Johnny cake. What kind of cake you want for your birthday, Steve? Johnny cake. Whew, made it to the bakery in time. I mean, just as it opened. You still got Johnny cakes? Well, no, we haven't made those in half a century. It's not a normal podcast. It's a one person talking. I don't even want to use the word podcast. You use the word podcast and it's three people in a room with nervous laughter and just trying to fill something. This is me getting some off my chest, and this is stuff that I'll sit down and write and generate material. I had hundreds of these before. I never posted them anywhere. They were just pods. They weren't podding cast them anywhere. I would just listen to them and say, oh, that's funny. This could be a joke. There's an idea. And now I hate myself so much for saying, you know what? I think the world should hear the meanderings. The world. Steve Rossi, stupid as charged.